So let's just start with this. I talked about this. I'm a team guy. And it drives me nuts when I see a Ben Simmons or a Kyrie. At my core, I don't like it. But I look at Matt Stafford, and I think the reason that you are wearing a gold jacket, you moved. And you got great situations, and you made them great. And Matt Stafford probably is not going to wear a gold jacket, and you and I both know he's an unbelievable player. And I look at his Ram numbers, and I think, did loyalty cost him? When you go back to your career and the balance, Kurt, between being a team guy and then saying, my operation is fundamentally poorly run. And I think there is a balance there. And maybe Stafford being a nice guy cost him. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it definitely does to a degree, because I think the goal when any of us get in any situation is, man, I want to play my whole career with one organization. I want to be the face of that franchise. I want to turn that franchise around. And, my legacy is in Detroit, and I turned them around, and we went to a Super Bowl. We won a Super Bowl, all that stuff. And that's kind of our mindset. And especially as a competitor, you go, man, as long as you just put guys around me, I'm able to elevate our team and get there. And then it's year after year after year, as you said, Colin, and you're watching Matthew Stafford, and you're going, my gosh, this guy is so talented. What would he be in another organization? And you do have to fight that balance. And I think it finally came to the point where I don't think Stafford wanted to do it. I talked to Larry Fitzgerald a number of times after I left, and he was juggling back and forth. Do I re-sign with the Cardinals? Do I go somewhere else? Because I want that elusive chance to win a championship. And obviously he held on and stayed a Cardinal his entire career and all of those things, and never got that opportunity. That I do believe that loyalty can cost you at some point. And so I'm glad that Matthew Stafford, still with plenty of time to play and be successful in this league, is going to have that opportunity, is going to have a team around him for the next few years that gives him a chance to say, hey, can you be that guy? Can you be the guy that elevates a team and wins a championship? We just don't know the answer to that. We just know he's really talented. We want to get the answer to that because he is so talented and such a great guy. Now he gets that opportunity.
Kurt, in your generation, I was much more willing to give quarterbacks 3 full years. But now there's 7-on-7 camps. You guys, the quarterbacks now have 20,000 snaps by the time they're 13. And I've said now, I'll give you 2 full years. But by the end of it, I'm going to have private conversations with my scouts and my GM. And I look at a Daniel Jones. Like Kyler Murray's young. I'd re-sign him. Daniel Jones, I'm going to go to Thanksgiving. Tua, I don't think it's there. Probably give him the rest of the year, whatever you do. But Baker Mayfield's an interesting one. So, Kurt, we've got 52 starts. In my opinion, I don't love his judgment. He's not ideal size. He's always thought he's a bit more athletic than he is. He's a little too cocky for my taste. I think, your personality, Brady's personality, Russell Wilson, there's a personality for quarterback, and it is grateful and humble and hardworking and head down. Doesn't have a lot of that. And now he's hurt. Where do you weigh in on Baker? Because they're going to have to make a decision not long from now on an extension. Like Lamar, you're getting the money. Kyler, I'm not arguing. Where are you today on Baker Mayfield all in?
Well, I thought you guys made a great point before I jumped on. You guys were talking about Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins in Washington, and a team that was fairly successful and got to the playoffs, and where they're at now. And I believe that the discussion with Kirk Cousins at that time was not, is he a good quarterback? Is he above average, a starting quarterback in the NFL? It's simply, can we win a championship with Kirk Cousins? And I don't know if Washington was convinced of that. That's the reason they moved on, and they're trying to find a guy that they believe they can win a championship with. I believe Baker is very much in that same mold, is that you say to yourself, I'm not sure Baker's a guy, or at least shown us at this point, he's a guy that can carry a team. And to your point, Colin, that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to find that guy where you go, oh, if the chips are down and we got to depend on this guy, we can count on him to win a Super Bowl for us. There are not very many of those guys. And so the dilemma becomes, do we keep a Baker Mayfield who has been really good and has led us to places we haven't been in a long time, also knowing that maybe he's not the guy that we can lean on if we have to, to carry us. And, Kirk Cousins, and there's a number of guys in the league that we have those questions about. And so it comes down to an organization saying, what are we here for? Are we willing to go to the playoffs every year and be a good, solid team, Cincinnati Bengals with Andy Dalton. Are we willing to be that team, or is the bottom line, end of the road, we want to win a championship? And if we want to win a championship, I think if you don't feel you have that guy, you cut ties, you move on, and you try to find that guy, because there are only so many guys every year. You know it. At the beginning of every year, you cross off 10 teams and you go, okay, these are the 10 teams that have a chance to win a championship. Why? Because they have that guy.
Right.
And it starts with that guy, and then everything else comes along from there. If you don't have that guy, you might make the playoffs. You might be that 6th or 7th team, but you're probably not going to compete for a championship. And if you are, it's because of one of those for you. And I believe that's where Baker is at this point in his career. And Cleveland's going to have to make that determination. Are we good enough around him? Because he's a good quarterback that we can win a championship, or are we just going to need to find that dog at the quarterback position that we believe can carry us?
By the way, NFL Network tonight, you have a movie coming out about you called American Underdog. It's a famous story about you checking groceries at one point. Tony Romo, by the way, was also undrafted. Josh Allen, by the way, after junior college, got one offer to Wyoming. Was there ever a moment for all the young quarterbacks out there that are battling their way to be a franchise quarterback? Was there a moment in your life, Kurt, that you almost just said, it's not going to happen for me?
Trust me, Colin, there was a lot of those moments where I said it's not going to happen. And the ironic thing is that it wasn't because I ever doubted who I was or my skill. It was I doubted whether I would get the opportunity. Right. And probably the biggest, you talked about Josh Allen getting one offer. I got one offer too, and it was a half a scholarship offer to Northern Iowa,
wow.
FCS school at the time. And then I sat on the bench for 4 years in college.
Wow.
And, that was kind of the point where I'm like, how does this dream ever work out if I can't even get on the field at this level? And so there were moments when I thought about walking away or quitting or transferring to a small school just to play, where I really thought, okay, it's going to come to an end right here. And the hardest part of that was it's going to come to an end because I'm not getting the opportunity.
That's right.
Not because I got the opportunity and failed. And that to me is always the hardest thing. And I think that's what kept me going was I can't just be that 40-year-old guy that's sitting on a couch going, man, I could have.
Right.
If somebody would have just given me the opportunity, I could have been that guy. I had to prove to myself one way or another, either you can or you can't, and then you can walk away and live with it. But that's what kept me going. But I did definitely have some of those moments where I wondered, would I ever get that opportunity to prove it?
What's really amazing, Kurt? Have you ever thought about this? Aaron Rodgers had to go to a junior college. Russell Wilson had to transfer because his coach quit on him. Kyler Murray had to transfer. Brady couldn't start regularly at Michigan. Big Ben had to go to Miami of Ohio. It is almost as a rule. Peyton Manning is rare. Number one high schooler, number one college. That's rare. You are actually more of the story. Seriously, I look around the league all the time and I'm like, half of this league is actually undrafted. So I wonder if that, and I don't see you as kind of a chip on the shoulder guy, but there is something about being doubted, because I always argue that it's so hard to be a quarterback that if you don't have a little metal, if you don't have a little chip, I don't see you as a chip guy because you're kind of a very joyful guy, but do you have that chip?
Yeah, I never looked at it like a chip. Like you said, you hear Aaron Rodgers, you hear Tom Brady. Every year they find something to be the reason why or to talk themselves into. I didn't have a chip from that standpoint, that I wasn't trying to prove to everybody else, oh, you're wrong, I can play, you're saying this about me, that's not true. But I had that competitiveness like all the great ones have.
Yeah.
And, you might call it arrogance in some situations. You might call it the chip on the shoulder. Man, I had that competitive streak in me that wanted to compete and was willing to work and just wanted to have a ball in my hands in any arena, out in the backyard, in an alley, playing arena football. I just loved to compete. And that to me, when you talk about a chip, that was just my chip man, give me a ball. And I will show everybody that I can play this game. And so, that was something that I think drives every great player. And I think to your point, Colin, is that when it's not handed to you, I think about my kids all the time. My kids look at me and they're like, Dad, you're an old non-athlete. I am so much of a better athlete than you were at my age. And, you say you worked hard. I work harder than you ever did. They have no idea what went into it. And I think a lot of guys where it kind of falls in their lap, and Peyton's an exception. He worked his butt off in so many situations throughout his NFL career. But I think, we all know a lot of guys, when things are given to them or it's easier for them, they don't develop that work ethic, that edge, that competitiveness to a certain degree that you have to have when you're fighting for your life in every situation. And, it's a hard thing to teach because sometimes, like you said, I think it's really something that, out of survival, you go, okay, I got to have this. I got to find a way to do this because nobody's handing me anything. And so I think there is something to those guys that go that route and that little edge that you're talking about that they all have.
Good stuff. Kurt Warner, the Hall of Famer. NFL Network tonight, Cleveland with Case Keenum against Denver. By the way, Teddy Bridgewater has a weird record historically as an underdog on the road. So Bridgewater will find a way to play very well tonight. Very competitive game. Kurt, thanks for coming on the show.
You bet it, buddy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.